Welcome back to the All Things Everything podcast presented by Gulf Coast Smoke. My name is Alonzo.
And I'm Sabrina.
There you go. That's a lot better. That's a lot better. And this is episode
5.
5. That's kind of crazy that we've been doing this for 5 episodes already.
Yeah.
And today we have our very first guest.
Yeah, which we're excited about.
We told you guys last week that we were going to try our best to have our first guest. We ended up getting our guest, and it is none other than Fried BBQ, Mr. Bill Purvis, who is just one of the best dudes that I've met through this barbecue thing. I've met a lot of great people, and there's a lot of great people that I think are pretty much on the same exact level as him, but man, Bill is just such a nice guy.
Yeah.
And he just sincerely such a nice guy. One of those guys that, man, he will help you. Like, he's just super helpful. We've known him for a while, talked to him every once in a while, but only recently have we kind of become friends with him. And, man, he's just, we're grateful that he was on the podcast today. And we'll cut to that interview here in a little bit. But we did have a few things that we wanted to talk about before we got to that interview. And what did we do this past weekend?
So we went to Waller, Texas for the Danny Dietz Memorial Classic Cook-Off.
Yep.
Which was a KCBS event, our first KCBS. And, man, I'll tell you what, I love the KCBS feel. I enjoyed doing the kale. I enjoyed the 30-minute turn-in windows. It's very fast-paced, but I liked it because, the closer those turn-in times are, the more involved you have to be, the more you have to do, and I have more fun when I'm out there doing stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, so we've been really trying our best to make it to where every competition that we've been doing recently is
I love you too.
I love you, buddy. Hey, buddy. Buddy. It somehow turns out that you always come in when we're in the middle of the podcast. I think it's awesome. There was somebody that told us you need to be a guest on every single episode, brother. Love you, buddy. So we've been trying to have you involved in every single competition from the start to the finish, if we can. So most of the times, if we're going out of town, which we've been going out of town a lot, kind of off topic, I just love it. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, we've been having a lot of fun. We've been going to Buc-ee's a lot because we're always going the Houston way.
And Prasix or Prasix,
yeah,
however you say it.
But it's just been a lot of fun. But either way, so we're trying to get you involved in every single process that we do. So a lot of people don't really see our Friday preparation, but, I mean, you help mixing brine, you help me with injecting, you help me with a lot of different things. And now, the past couple of events, you've been waking up with me at 4 or 5 in the morning, and we start filming very, very early. We start the process very, very early, which as before, I was doing all that for maybe, 4 or 5 hours by myself. You'd maybe show up at like 8, 9, just depending because of the kids. So I would be at it for like 4 or 5 hours by myself. Well, not by myself. I'd be with my dad. And my dad's extremely helpful. But now you're there in the beginning of the day. And I agree with you on every single part of that KCBS. The turn-in times I was so nervous about. We talked about this last week. That was my favorite part.
Oh, yeah.
My absolute favorite part was the 30-minute turn-in times. When you turn in chicken, you got no time to rest.
Yep.
You're going the rest of the time. You're just going as fast as you can, but you're also very, very, you have to be efficient in every move that you do. It has to be for something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we were taking pictures. I couldn't post anything to social media, which I typically do.
Right.
And I had to post everything after the competition because there's just no way. I didn't have time even to sit there and write the caption out and then post it, wait, share it, all that stuff. I just didn't have the time. So I agree with you on every single part. I loved the KCBS.
Yeah.
How did we do?
So, and our results may not reflect how we felt, but I felt good with everything. I thought our chicken tasted the best it's ever tasted. Ribs, I was very, very happy with. Pork, I was happy with for the most part. Brisket was great. I thought appearances, and of course this is our first KCBS, so I wasn't quite sure, how high does the kale need to be? How low does the kale need to be? Am I doing this right? Which I had a lot of fun with it, even if I didn't really know what I was doing. But I thought appearances were really great on everything. I thought taste was great, texture was great. But, we were cooking things for more of that KCBS style, but this was only a 30% certified competition.
Yeah, and that's something that, how do I say it without sounding so negative? I mean, we just didn't know that was going to happen.
Right.
So we had prepared, and we had our timelines, and we had our ideas. We were basically going, and this is, in a way, our fault, right? Because we were basically going like, hey, there's going to be 100% certified judges. We need our texture to be there. We need our flavor to be this. We need to make sure we don't overcook our brisket. We need to make sure our ribs are not mush falling off the bone. We need to make sure our pork is not too mushy. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a little less than 30% of the judges were actually certified, meaning around 70% of the judges were just backyard judges, which is what we typically do in CBA,
Right.
IBCA, and every other competition we've been to. So, yes, all intents and purposes, it was a KCBS event 100%. The judging, however, was not quite KCBS judging. It was more uncertified than it was certified.
Mm-hmm.
That, to me, is still, it's one of those things where you need to be able to adjust. Now, we just didn't know that information until after the competition. But at the end of the day, I agree with you. I was personally happy with every single protein that we turned in. I thought the chicken was delicious. I truly thought it was delicious. We got the best color on it. We did do a few things differently, right? So with our chicken this week, what I ended up doing in order to get a better color on my chicken was we did two things. So number one, we actually put the chicken unsauced back on the drum to set the rub after it was in a butter bath for around 5 to 7 minutes, right? Nothing too crazy. So my process is put the chicken thighs on 30, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever. Once I like the color, I put it into a butter bath. Then I take it out of the butter bath, sauce it, put it on, let the sauce set. This week, what I did was I took it out of the butter bath, put it back on the grill, unsauced, let the seasoning set, and then I sauced. Now, the second thing that I did was I didn't get our sauce hot this week.
Right.
Because we noticed last week we got our sauce really nice and hot, which we typically do. But for whatever reason, it took off almost all of the seasoning that we had worked so hard to set on those thighs.
And I think that's why I thought it wasn't salty enough last week or last competition, because
that's a good point.
All of that seasoning just came off.
I didn't even think about that till you said that right now. But
I
mean,
didn't get the thought. So yeah,
it's very, very possible because you did say that. Now, I don't know exactly why that specific time. It felt like all of the rub washed off.
Right.
But yeah, what we really need to focus on doing is making sure that rub sets. And then in that butter bath, everything loosens up.
Mm-hmm.
All you're trying to do is get it really, really nice and tender. You're trying to get that skin and that fat completely rendered so you get that nice bite through skin. But we need to set that seasoning again to make sure that we retain that color. And I think we did a great job this weekend. So I was very, very, very happy with the chicken. The ribs.
Oh, and so we got a 27th place chicken.
I got it right here. So we got a 27th place chicken, which out of 100 teams,
it's pretty good.
I mean, it's not where I wanted to fall, but I'm not mad at it. Okay?
Yeah.
And then we move on to ribs. Personally, I thought our ribs were actually super delicious this week.
Thought they were great.
Like, I'm talking, I thought they were the best racks that we've cooked probably in about 4 or 5 comps.
Well, and that's because, like, you know me, I typically, like, I don't mind the sauce, but when we double dunk, it's like, sometimes it's too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, and then we went maybe, like, 2 competitions not double dunking, and then we came back to it this one, and I was like, man, that was good.
Yeah.
That's what we need to turn in.
So, and the other thing that I'm really trying to focus on whenever we are dunking, because there is a lot of sauce there, is I'll actually get the ribs, and I don't think you're actually seeing me do this because I'm doing it at the drum, and you're focusing, especially this week, you're focusing on other stuff. What I would do is I would get our offset spatula, and I would put it under the ribs, and I would actually kind of
Mhm.
pick the ribs up a little bit, and I would let the sauce run off. I'm not losing the sauce because there's so much sauce on there, but I'm making sure the sauce isn't pooling to
Right.
where there's just big spots of sauce, and that's what I don't want. So, I mean, we're still learning. We're still trying to find out the best way that we can make sure that we're doing the same thing every single weekend. So, I mean, our ribs, we make them the same pretty much through, I mean, all year. We've changed a couple of times, and now we're back to where we were making our ribs really, really good for a while, and we're doing that again. I mean, I truly thought they were delicious. I thought the tenderness was on point. Well, we thought the tenderness was on point based off of what we needed to do for KCBS.
Right.
So we did pull them earlier than we normally would because CBA and IBCA are fork and knife, but KCBS, they can pick it up. So we did not want it falling off the bone, but they were super tender. You could take a clean bite. You could rip the meat completely away from the bone, and the bone was clean. It was cooked, in my opinion, just about perfectly.
Right.
And looking at our scores, our texture was 99889, and then we got a 7. We got 1 7 on tenderness. So, I mean, that 7 to me is kind of like, I obviously believe it. It's right here, but I'm not sure how accurate that is based off of the rest of it. I mean, we just had one basically really bad score. So, and that score was actually dropped anyway. So, the craziest thing is on our ribs, and I'm gonna put a picture of our ribs right now. That 987 that we got was a 31.4. That score got dropped. We got a 31.44 that wasn't dropped, which is a terrible score. And we had a 7 on appearance on ribs, which other than that, we had 99989. And a 7 in KCBS, it'll absolutely kill you. Absolutely kill you. So I'm going to put our box right here. You guys let me know in the comments if this is. Don't even tell me if you think it's a 7. What would you score it? And be completely honest with us. Because if it's a 7 to you, then man, it's just a 7. I don't see it. I thought our boxes looked gorgeous this weekend. And the craziest part is we actually didn't even focus on them as much as we normally do.
Right.
Because we didn't have the time.
Right.
But we still were obviously trying our best to make it look good. We thought KCBS needed to be on point, and I thought we did what I wanted to do. So that's ribs. We ended up 38th ribs. That 788 hurt us bad. Other than that, we were in a decent spot.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And then pork.
I mean, come on. Pork, we got murdered.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say about pork because honestly, the only complaint that I had, and I told you this in the trailer, I said, and the reason I said this was because, again, this is our first KCBS, and we're just going crazy because pork takes a long time and brisket takes a long time. So we were trying to almost do like 2 things at once.
Right.
And our pork, in my opinion, was not cold. It was not cold, but it was getting there. It wasn't very hot in my hands anymore. It was starting to cool down.
Yeah, and you don't want to turn that into you don't want to go turn that in when it's already in the process of cooling down. You want it to be hot so that it can cool down over there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, was it cold? It was not. It was not cold. Let me make that be very clear. It wasn't cold, but it just wasn't piping hot like we normally have it piping hot to where I'm literally, I'm like touching it and dunking it in sauce and it's burning my fingers. And that's because I have gloves on and I have the hand savers on under the gloves.
Yeah.
So that was the only complaint I had. But the thing is with our pork on appearance, again, this is appearance, and I'm going to put our box right here on the screen. 9776699. So we got 2 7s and a 1 6 on appearance, which again, 7s will kill you. And 6, you're done.
Yeah.
You're absolutely done. So the person that gave us a 6 on appearance gave us a 5 on tenderness. A 5. Everyone else for tenderness gave us 9, 8, 8, 9, 8. And then we got 1 5.
That one person just did not like.
They didn't like anything. They didn't like anything about our pork. And am I going to sit here and say our pork is the best in the world? Nope. But I promise you it's not a 5. I promise you it's not a 5. I don't think anybody could taste that and think like, this was so trash, I'm giving it the lowest possible score it could get.
Right.
I just don't believe that.
Yeah.
We ended up 85th in pork. And obviously that just absolutely killed us.
Yeah.
I mean, we would have been closer to the top 10 if it wasn't for that. If we would have gotten a decent score there, I mean, it stinks to see, but you take it on the chin. And we didn't plan on competing this weekend, but the kind of little fire under our booties, and now we're going somewhere. We know we're going somewhere. We don't know where we're going somewhere, though, for sure. So, you know, it is what it is. Our pork ended up 85th, and, you know, no fun. But that's 3 meats where, okay on chicken, okay on ribs. I don't want to talk about pork. What happened with brisket?
So we got a walk, and it's funny because so they call the top 10 in each category, right? So they're about to announce 10th place. And you had talked about it too, like you knew that if we were going to hit in anything, it was going to be brisket. And, you know, when I'm sitting there filming and they say 10th place, I knew our name was going to get called.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not to sound like overly confident or anything. I just you know, we turned in a good product.
Yeah, the brisket. So, and that's the thing. Hearing us talk about how chicken, ribs, pork, brisket, as crazy as it sounds, I felt just as confident on chicken and ribs as I did on brisket.
Oh, for sure.
And the pork, yes, like I said, it was cooling down. It wasn't cold, but I did not have the same confidence as those. But again, I stand by it. I mean, I will die on this hill. At the absolute worst, that pork should have been in the top quartile. Was that the word? Quartile?
Quarter?
Percentile?
I don't know.
Quartile. Percentile. Whatever. It should have been in the top 25% of that competition. And I stand by that because we turned in all monies and cubes, which is just monies cubed.
Right.
The tenderness was great. The flavor was great. The pork flavor came through. There was a perfect smoke ring. Everything looked really good. It tasted really good. I stand by it. But, yes, brisket saved the day for us.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we've been cooking a pretty good brisket recently. So, 10th out of 100, I'm happy.
Right.
A call at our first ever KCBS event in front of all of those teams, it felt good.
Yeah.
It felt really good. I'm not good at showing emotions like that where I'm really excited, but I was very excited. I mean, walking up to accept the award, hearts racing for sure. For sure. Am I satisfied? No. But it did save the day, and it made it to where it's like, okay, we might have come out here and got our butts kicked, but at least we won some money on brisket. It fuels the it fuels is not the right word. It pays for our next event and some of our meats. Let's ride. We're good.
Right. Well, and, you know, typically our goal at competitions is to do well overall.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I think I'm happier that we at least got a call. Because that's a walk. Because, you know, even the people who, you know, were in the top 10, a lot of them didn't even get a call on anything, but they just did well overall, but, didn't get anything out of it, you know? So, I'm pretty happy that we at least got a walk.
I agree. I really agree. And I think that our goal is, we've talked about it a lot. Our goal is to make sure that people know that we were there. Not to be cocky or anything, but just to remember who we are and what we're doing, right? It's like, hey, Alonzo and Sabrina and the kids and Gulf Coast Smoke was here again, and they don't forget us. That's the goal. Don't forget us. We're still here. We're knocking at that door. We still got our great seasonings. We're still working on a lot of things. We're still YouTubing. We're still podcasting. You know, we're, in a way, I think it's kind of funny, right? Because, we're just like the YouTubers. How many people were like, oh, dude, you're filming this weekend?
Yeah.
Bro, you're filming this weekend? That's sick.
We're like, hey, it's the YouTube guy.
Yeah, people are like, dude, it's the YouTube guy. Dude, I love your channel.
Right.
And it's funny because, I talked to you about it, and I'm like, man, these people, I'm just Alonzo. I mean, I'm your husband. I'm a son. I'm a father. I'm a brother. I have my best friends who they know me very. We've talked about it. I'm not looking to be anything more than who I am. And that's just the truth. That is the God honest truth. And I think it's really interesting when people come out and they're like, "Oh, dude, it's the YouTube guy, bro." Like, I took a picture of somebody this weekend, and that's wild to me. But we're grateful. We had a great time at Danny Dietz, and I mean, I want to go again next year. I was a little upset, and I was like, "I'm not going next year," but I think I want to go again next year. I
Yeah.
mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of down to go wherever.
We'll just make it super tender,
Yeah.
whatever. So and we ended up 38th. I'm sorry, 37th overall, and out of 100 teams,
Not bad for our first KCBS with, 100 plus teams and a lot of really, really good names.
yep. And we'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll take it. So, and then basically that's what we wanted to cover on the first part of the podcast. We really wanted to highlight our special guest today. And like I said, we have Bill Purvis, Chicken Fried BBQ. We are not going to talk too much about him because we're going to let the interview speak for itself. But, I mean, was there anything that you wanted to talk about before we rolled into that interview?
No, I think I'm pretty excited to
Yeah.
I mean, I know you talk to Bill frequently, but
Yeah.
I'm excited to get in on that.
Yeah. No, for sure. And for what it's worth, I think that you guys are really just going to enjoy his personality. I mean, he's just such a good dude. He's hilarious. He's one of those guys that's super hilarious, and I don't even think he tries to be.
Right. He just seems like a very enjoyable person to be around. So.
Yep. So without further ado, we're going to roll into our interview with Chicken Fried BBQ. Well, first off, we want to thank Bill Purvis for being on the show today, man. Bill, welcome. How has your week been? How did you like the KCBS that we both attended last week? I mean, what you been up to, man?
Man, it's man, I've mixed feelings on that on the on the Danny Dietz. Mixed feelings for me. I've cooked a lot of KCBS, and man, I think it's going to be like I said, I think it was a struggle for them to get certified judging. So you're kind of, I did okay. I mean, I think I finished 24th overall, but you obviously want to go and do well, and I feel like I hit all my marks, and I feel like my tenderness was there, but I think some of the judges, they felt different. So,
yeah,
but that's the way it goes. If you're going to win every cook-off, no one's going to go, right? So you have to show up and cook. So
yeah, you're not lying about that.
And Jason, Jason's a great cook. So, it's always encouraging whenever you see good cooks win. So that's what, if you don't win, you want to see someone good, win to know that the judging was good. So,
for sure.
So yeah, congratulations to Race Crew for whooping all our butts.
Yeah, no lie. Well, man, just in case there's anybody that does not know who you are, I mean, what's your name? What's your team name? Where are you from?
Yep. So, Bill Purvis. I'm from, I grew up in Houston, but I live in Magnolia, Texas, which is north of Houston, about 45 minutes. Team name is Chicken Fried BBQ. You can find me on all the social media platforms under Chicken Fried BBQ, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, all of them. My website is Chicken Fried BBQ as well. So I've been able to capture all those, which is good. But yeah, I live here in Magnolia, just north of Houston.
So how long have you been competing?
So I went back and looked, and my first walk was a 9th place rib in an IBCA cook-off, which was, I think it was let me look. I put it in my phone because I knew some of these questions were coming. Let's see. That was March of 2019. So it's been a little over 4 years. So March 2019 was my first walk, which was a 9th place rib. And I probably did a couple of contests before then that I didn't walk.
Mm-hmm.
The first couple, I don't think I actually got a walk at all. But as far as looking on the internet, my first actual 9th place rib was March. I think right at the same time, right around that same time, I went and cooked a Go Metro event, and I did hit a first place rib, which I forgot about the ribs. I think I'd maybe told you that before, but I was cooking ribs on the drum. They were wrapped in foil, and man, we were partying, having a good time, and I ended up forgetting about the ribs, and we're like, oh man, we're screwed, and we ended up hitting first place rib, and they had brought me in to cook the ribs, and that was enough for first place brisket granted it, and first place ribs RGC'd it, so it was an RGC right off the bat. And then I think I went and hit a couple of IBCAs, and man, I struck out miserable, you know. So it took me, I think, 2 or 3 months to actually get a call. So
Yeah. No, I mean, man, I think that's the thing that people don't realize. They see most of the time you're out there these days, you're getting a lot of walks. You're pretty consistent in getting walks at most events, but man, it's not. I mean, I'm pretty new to this, but it's just not that easy to go out there and instantly start because everybody thinks their barbecue's good, right? But
Yeah.
it's just different.
it is different. It's different. It's everybody thinks their food is good, and most people. I mean, I'm not any different, I think, than anybody else. My family always tells me, "Oh, it's great," but when you're smoking a brisket and they're not smoking it, or your neighbors are not smoking it, and they all fall in love with it because they didn't do any of the work, and 9 times they're eating it for free. So,
Yeah,
Right.
for sure. That's a good point.
but getting out and actually turning it into judges, where everybody else is turning it in, then all of a sudden, you can get hit with some reality that maybe it's not the best barbecue in the world. So maybe I need to figure out what some of these comp guys are doing that gets them across the needle, or because it took me a while to actually. I think it was probably 2 or 3 months just to get a walk.
I think you're right though. It takes a little bit of time because even for me, I never wanted to sauce a brisket, just completely against it. But, it's just necessary. It's different. Like I always tell people, we're just trying to win the game. We're not trying to cook you the best backyard barbecue you've ever had. We're trying to win the game, right? And that's the way I like to explain it to people. But
Right. And so, what got you into competition barbecue?
So I had worked for an international shipping company. We shipped a lot of oil field products all over the world, and we had sponsored a tent at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo Cook-Off for a couple of years. So we would take clients down there. So I would go down there every year with customers, and it was a competition team. But as I don't know if you guys have met Fong, he was out there this last weekend, but it was
mhm,
Fong's team. Uh, and he's got a team of 15 people
mhm,
they just do Houston Rodeo. They show up every year, and some of those guys actually get out and cook and do some events, but most of them just show up for Houston Rodeo. And I would take clients out there, and we would just we're taking clients out there for entertainment on Friday and Saturday night, or Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. So I never really saw the competition part, because we'd get there at 6 or 7 at night, and it would just be a big party.
yeah,
But then, after 2 or 3 years of sponsoring, he kept, Fong, hey, why don't you come down here, and, I've got a couple other cook-offs we're going to go do, and you can come hang out and check it all out. And so definitely Fong was the guy that got me in. And, then I ended up going down there during the day when no one's there other than just the comp teams. There's no foot traffic, and that's when all the competition stuff happens. But at night, it just turns into a big party.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so I started going with him to actually other comps. I went with him to Chipacabra. I went with him to the Showdown, and I just kind of watched. I was helping, washing dishes, whatever. And after 2 or 3 times going with him, I thought, man, I can do this. I'm just going to register my own team and see how my barbecue does.
Yeah.
And I think my first contest, I did get a final table chicken, which I was like, okay, got me a little final table chicken. They called my ticket number, so.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was pretty excited that I got a little final table chicken, So
Yeah. And then so, I mean, fast forward, right? We're fast forwarding a lot now, but I mean, you recently this year from October to April, you won 7 GCs, you won 2 KCBS, 2 CBA, 1 Lone Star, 1 IBCA, and 1 BCA. And I'm not just going to sit here and toot your horn, but man, that's like just saying that out loud, it makes me smile because that is absolutely incredible. I mean, do you has anyone else ever done it in that fashion?
Man, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure about that, but I will say that IBCA, CBA, Lone Star, and BCA, all of those sanctioned bodies, they're all knife and fork.
Yep.
So it's a similar, it's a similar tenderness for all of those. I wouldn't, if it's IBCA, CBA, Lone Star, BCA, it's all, there's no kale. Lone Star and IBCA have different requirements as far as how many slices or how many ribs. I think
Mhm.
IBCA is 8. Lone Star or BCA may be 7. I'm not exactly sure, so don't quote me, but I do think that some of them have different number of slices or number of ribs, and they're particular of how they put them in the box.
Mhm.
Uh, like even like say BCA, you can't. Your ribs have to be parallel to the hinge, but they also cannot be offset. They have to be directly on top of one another.
Oh wow.
Okay.
So you've seen people put ribs on one side. I mean, they're still parallel to the hinge, but then offset them to where they're kind of staggered.
Yep.
You
Mhm.
can't do that in BCA. BCA, they have to be directly on top of one another.
Mm.
So they each have,
Interesting.
little different rules, if you will. So, but but they're all knife and fork, which is the same tenderness. KCBS is the only one that's obviously different. You
Yep.
got kale, you've and most of those like IBCA, Lone Star, and BCA, it's the same turn in. They do an hour and a half,
Mhm.
turn in window. So CBA is an hour, and then of course KCBS is 30 minutes. So you do have to, you know, juggle your timelines a little bit, but I think any cook once they've done them, it's like anything else. It's like riding a bike. It's not that big a deal to adjust. Once you've done plenty of each, if you will.
For
So
sure. For sure.
Oh, I mean, we haven't even got a single GC and one
Yeah.
reserve.
Yeah.
So I don't think people realize
I
how.
got a reserve. Though y'all do have a reserve, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we do
It's
have a
for
reserve.
IBCA. Mhm.
Yeah, an IBCA reserve, which we lost to Lee Hickle's stepdaughter by less than a point.
Mhm.
Less than a point. Such a devastating blow, but hey, you know what? It's okay. We'll keep going. We'll
And
keep
that
going.
one was a automatic entry to
Yeah,
the.
that would have been an auto invite to the Royal. I
Yeah.
know you can still sign up and go, but I want the invite.
Yeah, you can go as and cook the open,
Hmm.
which is on the Sunday. Anybody can cook the open, but I think you do need a grand maybe to. I think it's a GC to actually cook the invitational.
Yep, exactly.
So, which you're going to get there. You're going to. I mean, I have no doubt, dude. You're going to. And once you do, they'll just start popping. So
Man, it's funny. This is actually not on our sheet, but I did want to bring it up because I thought it was so hilarious. So we put out on Facebook that you'd be on the podcast this week, and we asked people to ask questions, and we had a couple of questions. But dude, did you read how many people were just saying how you're the best guy in barbecue and you're a great person and you're so helpful and all?
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, and what's hilarious? Well, I don't even want to say hilarious, but the crazy thing is they're just absolutely correct, man. It's funny how you're just so willing to help people, man. I mean, a lot of people out there, and I don't think it's good or bad either way, but a lot of people out there, man, they don't want to give away any secrets. They don't want to say too much or be too helpful in some situations. But you've never shied away from, I mean, helping me. A lot of people out there were saying you've helped them. I mean, that's just that is truly being a great ambassador for barbecue because I've heard you say it before, man. We got to grow this sport.
yeah, we do, and we all need help. I mean, and the way to me, the way the help thing works, man. If I help you, man, I'm assuming that if I run into an issue, where man, my pork's doing this,
Mm-hmm.
and I need help, because man, I mean, this stuff changes all the time. There's nothing that stays consistent. You know what I mean? There's certain meats that I am pretty consistent with, and I haven't changed, but. Uh, if if you don't help anybody, man, no one's going to help you, and I mean, if I need help, I feel like there's definitely people I and call and ask, especially if I've helped them. Now, if they don't return the favor, then I kind of, chalk it in my mind, and maybe I'm not so helpful to, you know, uh, people that are going to be super secretive. But I feel like, especially if somebody's paid for my class, I feel like it's my obligation
to
to
help
try to
them out.
help them along the way. They've spent money and they bought my class, so I definitely, you know, my trailer's usually open to most of those folks, if you will. So
Well, I was in your trailer a couple of days ago, and how many people showed up in that thing at once? I swear there was like there was like 10 people. There was like 10 people hanging out. I was like, oh my gosh, Bill's trailer is a party right now. I was like, I was
I'm
like,
telling you, dude.
I
I
was
don't think
like,
I've ever had that many people in my trailer.
it was to the point to where like everyone had to spread out just so more people could come in. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, Lee walked in and it was me, you, and Lee for a little bit, and then Phil walked in, and then Reed walked in. I was like, oh my god, and then just more people kept
See, and
yeah,
Anna and Scotty. I mean,
yeah,
they started piling in.
yeah. It was pretty funny. But no, I do think that that's really incredible that you do that. You're so helpful, and you're right. I mean, uh, you know, one of these days, I mean, if you ever needed anything from us, obviously, we're here. So, um, you know,
I mean, in this game is really, it's there's a big mental part in the game that we're playing, and it's easy to get off track. And a lot of times, like I said, I've have some of my classes online, and if I see people, if I've helped somebody or somebody's running my chicken recipe and I don't hit, but I see them hit, and it's still encouraging that, man, that recipe's still good. I just hit a bad table,
yeah, yep,
and it helps me as well not to run around and chase ghosts and start trying to mix, and I still do some of that. I mean, I am pretty fluid with my ideas, and I test them at cook-offs. So I don't always cook it. I definitely don't always cook the exact same recipes or sauces. I do play around, and I'll make little tweaks here and there. But but like I said, it's encouraging when I see people that have, in the Barbecue Champs Facebook group this weekend, there was, I had a guy that hit first place brisket. I had a guy that RGC, I think a couple of RGCs were in the little group this weekend. So,
yeah,
and I had some guys that walked at Danny Dietz, running my recipes and walked at Danny Dietz. So it was,
yeah.
hey man, I ran your injection on your ribs, and they got a top call or whatnot, so
Yeah.
uh,
And one of the things that I'll say, because I've put it out there already. I mean, you've seen it, and I've said it on a couple. I think when you do like the Barbecue Champ show, I've commented a couple of times, and I've let people know that I've taken your class on there. And one of the best things about it to me is not only the fact that you get ideas for different recipes, but it's the techniques that sometimes as a newer cook you just don't even know people are doing. And my wife and I have sit there and watched this on our TV, and we're like, how did he ever think to do this? But it's just I think that's the thing. And for anybody listening, we will put a link in the description where you can go get Bill's class, and I highly highly recommend it, because you know we bought your class pretty much right when it came out, and soon after, I mean, I went on a streak for ribs, which I won't. Obviously, I'm not going to say too much. They need to get your class right, but um, there was just some things in there that, I mean, we ended up going third, second, second, first, first. Like our ribs were just hitting hard. And then some of the ways that you cook on drums, I cook on drums, so some of your techniques there really helped me a lot. And it's a great class, and if anybody is running thighs, you absolutely have to. That class that I took there for the thighs was on another level, and just the way that you do things, it's very very meticulous, and it is time consuming. But I mean, I've been to a couple events with you recently, and you hit second second chicken, third chicken. I mean, you're walking away with checks every single weekend. So realistically, the class pays for itself as long as you listen to what this man is telling you what to do. Um, and so, yeah, I mean,
I think you're exactly. I mean, just nailed on that. If you take the class, pay attention to the techniques and watch them over, watch the techniques, because recipes, man, I don't think recipes, I mean, recipes are good. You need a good recipe. You need something that, that tastes good and all the rest of it. But there's a lot of there's no rub, there's no sauce out there that guarantees a walk.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There just isn't. You can't sauce with, hey, man, this is a secret sauce and you put this on and you're going to win every time. There's not one that exists.
Yep.
But most of the guys that are consistently walking, it's because of their techniques, and they're trying new flavors, trying to stay ahead. They're trying new twist on a sauce or a new twist on this. But, the techniques for competition barbecue are pretty unique, and they're not the same techniques you use in the backyard at all.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you're
I mean, at
absolutely
all.
correct.
I mean, no one's gonna scrape skin on a chicken thigh in their backyard. I don't think they are.
Shoot,
Unless they're doing a
I might
YouTube
start.
video.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But
You know?
it's just one of those things where I feel like on our YouTube channel we put a lot of information out there, but there's also a lot of information that you know we learned from you that we're not going to put out there because it's respect to you and it's respect to the game. And man, again, people just need to go because again, the class, I promise you, it will pay for itself. I hit two back-to-back first place ribs, a second, third, and I made all the money back that I spent on the class. I mean, it's a very very good investment, and I haven't taken any other classes online or anything like that, so I don't know if there's anything but I think your Barbecue Champs Academy class was really good, and if people want to start walking, they need to sign up as soon as they can. And the best thing is anybody that has any doubts on what you're saying and what you're teaching them in that class, I have personally watched you prep stuff exactly the same way that you say that you're doing it in the class for a comp, and then you went and beat my butt the next day with that same exact thing. So I mean, I mixed your brine for you one night when we were kind of just hanging out, and then the next day he went and beat me in chicken. I'm like, man, it's like, so if anybody thinks he's not running these brines, you're lying to yourself, man. I mixed the brine myself. So anyway, again, just anybody that wants to take the
Man,
class.
it does no good to lie.
Yeah, you're right.
It
You're right.
it does no good to lie. It's a small community that we're all in. It's not a very big community, the barbecue community, and if you go out there and put false information, man, it'll be sussed out pretty quick, and then no one's going to be buying my class, because word travels in both directions.
For sure.
So,
For sure.
um, and I know I've had people that have man, I took your class, I talked to so and so, and ended up taking your class. So a lot of the people that have taken my class have been good referral sources for me to get more class. And I don't actually, I mean, that's my full-time job is barbecue. I sell my rub and I sell my class.
Yep.
So
Yep.
um, the more the merrier. I
Yeah,
mean,
for
you still
sure.
have to go out and cook it. You still
And
have to retain it all and go out and deliver it. And man,
well,
that's even hard for me sometimes. So
the great thing about the class also is when you have it online, you can continuously go back and you can watch it over again. So this past weekend at Danny Dietz, we ended up hitting an 85th pork, right? And I I'm not gonna sit here and talk about it too much, but I will say I just don't believe that we have an 85th place pork. Besides that, I already went back and I watched that class over again just to refresh my memory. Hey, how did Bill do it? What was he looking for? What did the probe look like when it was going into that money muscle? Just different things. So it is good that you can always go back. And I mean, my wife and I were watching it last night and we're like, I can't believe we got 85th, but it is what it is.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's what happens sometimes. I mean, there are people running those judges rooms.
Yep.
It is people. So
Yep. They're human beings.
uh I mean, they're human beings. They're fallible. You know what I mean? They can make mistakes, and there were different comments cards that were stapled on the back of different top sheets. So there was, man, just me looking at it from the outside. I assumed there was a lot of confusion in that judging room, and to handle 100 teams of judging, that's a big task.
Oh
And
yeah.
Right.
it's not a. I wouldn't think it's an easy task. So And I'm sure Jen and Vince, man, they're doing the best job they can. But
Oh yeah.
and when you got 100 boxes coming at you hard and fast, and judges saying they're going to show up and they don't show up, and you're scrambling, or you know what I mean.
Yep.
Right.
So
Yep.
it's easy to, I'll sit back, and sometimes if I don't get the results, like my chicken, I got 45th chicken. And as you say, the last 3 weeks, I've been first chicken, second chicken, and third chicken. Those have been my last three contests leading up to Danny Dietz. And I cooked the exact same, cooked the exact same chicken thigh. And I thought my tenderness was better than the other three. And I end up 45th. And man, maybe it was my box, or maybe there was some confusion. I mean, no one will ever know. So
Yeah.
you just have to, you need a short memory in this game to be able to just, I'm going to go this next weekend and I'm going to run the exact same chicken again, even though it was 45th.
Yep.
Uh,
Right.
so,
And that
and I'll tell
happens.
you too. I mean, when I was at El Campo, I got a 40 something chicken, and I had actually, you've taken my class. It's enough sauce for two comps when you make
Mhm.
that chicken sauce of mine.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's a lot of leftover sauce. So I poured it all in a soup container at El Campo before I knew I was getting 45th, and put it in my refrigerator. And man, I got hammered in chicken. I finished 11th overall. Man, if I would have had a good chicken call, I'd have been in the mix. Uh, but the very next week, I go to Crosby, and when it comes time to sauce my chicken, I reach in my refrigerator. I grab the exact same sauce. I did strain it because there's some little chicken floaties in there for
Mhm.
me dunking it, and ended up getting first place chicken.
Yeah.
Didn't even mix a new sauce.
Yep.
So, uh,
And I think that's good advice for most people competing is, if you go to a competition and you use a recipe and it doesn't do well, that doesn't mean to just give up on it. You got to keep trying it because, I mean, you're in different areas, people like different things. So it's going to hit sometimes and sometimes it won't.
Yep, that's exactly right. And if I get something that hits 30, 40% of the time, man, I leave it alone.
Right.
Because there's not anything, one day that chicken can be 45th, the next day it's first. But if I start, chasing down a bunch of rabbit holes looking for, the perfect chicken recipe, man, I may find myself, 3, 4 weeks in a row not getting a chicken call. So,
Right.
Yep.
uh, and that's hard to do. It's hard to distinguish when should I make a change, as opposed to, hey, I just hit a table of, that didn't like my food.
So is there a contest that you haven't won that what you would really like to win, or a contest that you've never competed in that you still want to compete in?
Yes, there is for sure. So I have the Jack Daniels coming up. I've never competed
Mm.
in it. I've been to it twice with friends of mine as a guest, and just kind of hung out, and kind of took in, some of the sights and whatnot. But the Jack Daniels is for sure. I haven't competed. I'll be competing this year, my first time. So that's on my list. I would love to win the Jack Daniels. I've cooked Houston Rodeo several times for friends and teams, whether never the whole, usually just like, I cooked brisket for a team one year. I cooked ribs for a team one year. And
Mhm.
this year, I get to cook it under my own team name. And I get to, I'm on Champions Row because of the win at San Antonio. Uh, so those two, and of course the American Royal, those three are all bucket list. You know, I would love to win any one of the three.
Mhm.
So and I've competed at the Royal twice. So I have competed there twice, but the Houston and the Jack, I haven't competed under my name. So this year I'll get that chance. So, and if I can get one of those, I would be just over the moon. So.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think you will. I think you will. We're rooting for you for sure. All of us Texas cats. I mean, I know we're
And
rooting
as
for
far
you.
as regular comps, right? As far as regular comps, comps. I mean, those are kind of majors, if you will. But I would like to eventually one day. I want to cook Murfreesboro. It's a KCBS, and I think it does an MBN one day and a KCBS the next day. And I've heard nothing but great things about that comp. I think Mike Mills, who's no longer with us, he's the one that's started that, and they bring in quite a few. I think Heath Riles cooks it every year, and maybe it was. I know one year he actually won the NBN and he GC'd the KCBS, so he actually,
Wow.
had two GCs in the weekend, which is pretty cool. So
Yeah, that's good.
uh,
We're going to start moving into questions that some people asked us on Facebook and YouTube. And the first one is going to be, what is the most important tool that you take to every cook off?
my Thermopin for sure.
Thermopin
Got
for
to be
sure.
the
I
Thermopin.
I agree with you. I
Yeah.
couldn't I couldn't do it without it.
I'd be dead in the water without it. Now I've showed up to cook-offs without certain rubs that I use. Oh, I ran out of that rub. Shoot, let me just try this or borrow something. You can get by, but man, without a Thermopin, man, I'm dead in the water. And I use it, like I said, just about every meet, if you will, to find out when stuff's done, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Um, I could probably get by if I didn't have it with maybe some toothpicks or something, but I wouldn't want to, So
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
a toothpick doesn't give you a number, but it would tell you tenderness. You could get a feel, but
For sure.
my hand and eye is used to the feel of that Thermopin. Not so much the actual number that's on it, but more so the actual
The
feel of
feel.
how it goes in and out of a brisket. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, no, I recently did a YouTube video where I used a broken thermopin that did not work, and I was showing people what I feel for the brisket, because you're right. I mean, the number doesn't really matter, but that feel is everything.
Right.
Yeah.
It feels everything for sure.
And our
Probably in my
next
trailer too. I wouldn't want to do it without my trailer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, even our little I don't even know what I would call ours. Our little rat trailer. It's hard to do. It would be hard to do without it, man. That little thing
Yeah.
is a lifesaver.
Our next question is best advice, excuse me, best advice for young competitors on a budget.
So, depending on whatever style cooker you're cooking on, if you're a newbie coming in, I would, depending on the actual, if you're cook on an offset, I would find a class. I mean, I'm a big proponent in classes. I mean, I got to where I am because I took classes. So I've
Right.
taken several classes, and I've taken stuff away from each one of them. So, and
Mhm.
there's not a class out there that I run. I think me and Alonzo have talked about it. He's taken my class, but he's put his own twist on things. And I think for the most part, most of us do.
Yeah.
But I would find a class if you're cooking on an offset, find somebody that's running on offset because, it's going to cook different than a drum. And some of the techniques that the offset guys use, man, those techniques don't work on a drum.
Yep.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of offset guys like to cover their ribs and they'll cover their ribs in parquet. The squeeze butter. Some of those offset guys, they'll once
Mhm.
their rub kind of sets up, they'll just cake the tops of them, quite a few of them. But if you do that on a drum, all that butter's gonna hit the the fire basket and it's gonna burn. You know,
Yeah.
Right.
man,
Yep.
and it ain't going to be good for your ribs,
Yeah.
to
For
have all
sure.
that butter burning in there. So,
Yeah, I think
but
that's
yeah, I
great
would find a
advice.
class.
I think that's
And I
great
think the
advice.
barbecue league as well, it's probably the cheapest option out there. It's like $100 a year for the barbecue league. And there's, even if, I mean, a lot of the stuff on there is drum related. So you can take some of that stuff and maybe move it over to an offset, but you're probably going to have to spritz a lot on an offset, to keep. You don't want any hard bark in competition barbecue, so you need to keep your meat pretty moist, and the drum's a pretty moist environment as is, but the offsets or the pellet grills, they got a lot of airflow moving through, and they can harden up some ribs to where you kind of get that hard pan on top, and that's a killer for a knife and fork. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So this, what you just said about the soft bark, I wanted to ask you a question I just thought of in my head, because I've had a lot of people, when it comes to chicken. I've been very, very, very inconsistent with chicken, and I have a lot of friends that tell me to try doing crispy chicken skin for competition. Do you recommend that? Yes or no?
I don't know.
Yeah.
No,
So
I'm
I
not a
just,
crispy skin kind of guy.
I just, basically, I've always told people, man, I don't think that that's the play, but I've had a lot of people, and they kind of think that. So I just wanted to ask that real quick because what you said kind of brought me to that. But anyway,
Man, I want the fat between this, the skin. I want it to render out. I want it to cut with ease, and man, I don't want it rubbery. I don't want it hard. I want it soft to where, it's almost like bite through skin. But even on a half, I want it when they go in to fork it to where they can easily get a bite, and it's not they're not having to saw through something crispy. So
yep,
Right, right.
yep. All right,
I mean, you
next,
got judges, they're men and women, and not everybody likes chicken skin,
yeah,
especially
Yeah.
my wife doesn't, she's not going to eat chicken. She hates the skin of a chicken. If she gets chicken, she wants boneless, skinless breast.
yep,
Mhm.
She doesn't want dark meat. She damn sure doesn't want any skin. So
yeah, yeah.
I like chicken skin though, man. I'll eat just chicken skin, get
Oh,
one of
I'm
those
the
little
Oh yeah.
rotisserie chickens, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll eat the little skin left over, that little rotisserie guy from Brookshire Brothers, man. I get all into that skin.
Oh yeah, that's the way I am for sure, man. I love it too. I think it's good stuff.
It's like us once a week we
Yeah,
get a
we
rotisserie
we
chicken.
do rotisserie chicken like at least once or twice a week. We love it. We just pick one up from HEB or whatever. All right. So next question is, what protein took you the longest to figure out for competition?
Man, I'm probably half chicken.
Yeah, I
And I
still
don't
don't
know
think I
that I
figured
still
it
have
out.
it. I don't think I'm still. I still don't think I have it figured out.
Yeah, I
Half
feel the
chicken
same
is
way.
probably one. Man, I've had some great calls with half chicken. I've done really well, but man, I have also just taken it in the shorts on a half chicken. So
Yep, for sure.
uh, it's man, it's a tricky one for sure. The half chicken.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. My half chickens are not that great, but I'm cooking a half chicken this weekend, no matter where we go. I'm gonna,
Well,
I'm gonna.
I'm not cooking a half chicken this weekend, no matter where I go.
Yeah, I am. I've been doing so many thighs. I just want to run it, see what happens.
It's funny. I want to keep running thighs, but uh,
Yeah, I'm stubborn. I don't know. Maybe we'll do thighs.
it's
I
just
mean,
hard though
it
because the halves
it
you
also
can.
depends because I couldn't find half chickens today, dude. They're like seven
Oh yeah.
pounds right now at the store.
Man, I mean, go find a local like meat market, like a Mexican meat market, if you've got some of those, because they always have small birds,
Yeah, that's a good
and
idea.
Yeah.
they're always really white and clean looking, and and I like the little, like I said, there's quite a few little Mexican meat markets around the corner from my house, and man, every time I go in there, they got chickens,
Yeah,
and they're always little. Which man, if I am going to cook a chicken, I like cooking a little chicken, a 3.5 pounder or something like that. That way, in my mind, I think a smaller bird is kind of like a smaller pig. It's going to eat better than some big old nasty boar.
yeah,
So some big 6 pound chicken to me is just like, man, that thing's going to taste like freaking Woodstock in the breast.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
I'd rather have a small little chicken. So
for
Yeah.
sure.
And speaking of chicken, our next question says, "Is it better to butter bath a chicken half?"
and I don't know. I've done it both ways, and I haven't found one way that actually I've butter bathed them. I've not butter bathed them. I've walked both ways.
Right.
I haven't found one. You know, usually if I'm either grill marking my birds, if I'm doing half chicken, I'm either going to grill mark, and when I grill mark, I'm putting it, meat side down to set the marks. I usually don't butter bath if I'm going that way, you know.
Right.
So, and I get bored, so I won't always do, especially if I have something that's not super consistent. So my thighs have been really consistent, so I don't really veer too much in any direction on those guys. But half chicken hasn't been super consistent, so man, I just kind of, if I'm going to do half chickens, which I probably will start cooking more half chickens after the Jack Daniels, just because I'll need to, kind of get my feel for half chicken again going into Houston Rodeo, because you can't do thighs at Houston Rodeo. So,
Yeah,
Mhm.
uh, so if you start hammering it in half chicken, I may be knocking on your door, going, "What are we doing, Alonzo?"
man,
I've got Houston Rodeo coming up, and I need a good half chicken.
I'll tell you everything I got, man. If as long let's hope it starts hitting. I would be very happy if it did.
Right.
All right,
So
so
you keep cooking half chickens and keep trying to play with it and get something good. That
yeah,
way,
that way we
whenever
can bounce each
February
other.
rolls around, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Sounds like a plan, man. All right, next question is when competing in different regions, do you believe in changing flavor profiles or do you stick to your recipes? That comes from at Jaden Serta 3691.
and I don't change anything. I change in different regions. I will change on sanctioned bodies. If it's KCBS, I won't take my ribs as far, as long. But as far as my recipes, man, I run. It don't matter what sanctioned body it is. If I'm on a roll with ribs and ribs are hitting, man, those ribs, I'm gonna cook them in Georgia. I'm gonna cook them in Kansas City, and I'm gonna cook them at the Jack. It'll be the same rib that I'm cooking here. It won't be any different. Um, yeah, I don't really. Maybe a little less saucy on brisket, but I'll still, it's maybe, if I'm in Kansas City, I may be a bit more saucy on brisket, but that's probably about it. Whereas down in Texas, you're probably more au jus, finishing your brisket with an au jus, and you may mix in a little sauce or something. But
Yeah, I've been huge on the. I've been finishing my brisket with au jus the past, I don't know what, five, four competitions in a
Yeah,
row.
the majority of them.
Majority of them, I'm not saucing my slices at all. Um, I'm using I'm using the au jus that I rendered out of my brisket, um, and hitting them my slice pretty heavily with that. And I mean, I think it has a good contrast, sweet on top with the sauce and savory from the au jus. So I think that's been doing decent for us. But either way,
And our last question, it's a three-parter. It says, "What is your favorite protein to cook, and what do you think is the hardest protein to cook?"
yeah, we already
Which we
answered
kind
that.
of answered
Yeah,
that
we
with the
answered that one with the
chicken,
chicken, so we'll
right?
move on from that one. But
But so what is your favorite protein to cook, and what was your inspiration behind the Texas rib grind?
so ribs are definitely my favorite. And yeah, ribs were definitely my favorite. And there was when I first started, there was a rub that I was using that was similar, I guess, kind of similar to Texas rib grind, but they went out of business. And so I ended up seeing that and really liked it. And I was actually trying to develop a chicken rub because it was really for chicken that I was trying to work on a chicken rub. And at the house we were cooking chickens. I was cooking chickens with it, but I actually had a couple of racks of ribs that I just seasoned them with it and put it on the drum. And my family didn't care for the chicken. They thought it was too much pepper, but they loved it on the ribs. And my daughter was like, "Oh, the ribs are so good," and so I ended up trying the rib. I'm like, "Man, this is kind of the flavor I want on the chicken," but man, it didn't transfer. And I don't know if I was probably cooking the chicken really hot, wasn't necessarily smoking the chicken, and some of that pepper. When you smoke things, it kind of kills some of the heat level in the pepper. I think from it being on the smoker for 2 or 3 hours and actually smoking some ribs, the chicken was a lot spicier than the rib was.
mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it ended up like I said, trying to do a chicken rub, and it ended up turning into a rib rub, and then I release it as a rib rub, and then man, I get all kinds of messages for people that are using it on chicken. So,
Yeah,
you know, comp cooks will do the craziest stuff with rubs and injections, and they'll, competition guys they're not scared to try different things and put a wing dust in their injection, or there's no telling what
Right.
you know I put some goofy stuff in my injections that hasn't worked out, but there's
yeah.
different itches you got to scratch, and when you scratch them, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't.
Yep,
So
yep, yep.
hmm.
Well, just to kind of to wrap everything up, we talked a little bit about Texas rib grind. First thing, where can people find that? And second, is there anything new that's on the horizon that we can be looking for from Chicken Fried Barbecue? Maybe another rub, maybe some sauces, maybe some competition products that people should be looking out for.
Yeah, my brine should be coming out. I have a brine called Game Over, and I've been using it on my chicken. So I'm just waiting on my co-packer to get the bags and get it into bags. And they seem to be giving me the 2 or 3 more weeks, 2 or 3 more every 2 weeks. I message them, oh, it's
Yeah.
another 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm probably a small fish in the big pond with all their clients. So as soon as hopefully that will be here before the Royal, that would be nice. But the chicken brine should be the next item that's out. I'm working on a sauce, and I've given the go ahead, but man, I don't know how long it's going to take them to get the sauce out. So it could be, it could be 6 months,
Yeah.
but
I don't
equally so,
know.
I don't want to rush things either. I don't want to. I would like to rush my co-packer, but I want to make sure that I can use it. I can use it and win with it before I put my name on it. So
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't know if you're cool with me saying this, but I have tasted the sauce and it is very, very, very good. So I don't. I mean, you already have one with it, so
yes,
technically,
I've already. Yeah, yeah.
yes. But people, not everybody knows that. So, and so is the best place for them to find it going to be your website? And basically, most barbecue stores are carrying it.
Yes, yeah. Most of the barbecue specialty stores are carrying it. So if you're going to order other products, along with my rib grind, man, you can go to the barbecue store in Hempstead. They carry, like I said, but equally so. I mean, a barbecue superstore carries it. Big Papa Smoker carries it. All the Kansas City Barbie Store, KC Grilling Store, Proud Souls. There's a bunch of like I said, most of the competition stores. There's a couple of Aces here in Houston, and there's even more stores coming online with it being at Old World because people are ordering it direct. I got a barbecue store in Florida that's another one in California that are just ordering it direct from Old World off of their website. So
Nice.
Majax Meat Market in Conroe, they carry it. So it's available in a lot of different stores, but at the same time, I do have it on my website. It is for
Yeah.
sale on my website, which is chickenfriedbbq.com. So you can order it there. I've got shirts and hats, and I've just uploaded my fundraiser shirt for the Jack Daniels. I think
Yeah,
you
I got
bought
me
one
one.
already,
Yeah, I got
Alonzo.
one.
So I
Y-
appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no problem. Yeah, you
So
guys
just
got
to
to go
raise a
get
little
one of
money
those.
instead of asking for things, instead of just asking for donations, hey, buy a shirt to help us pay
Yeah.
for a little bit of the Jack
Yeah.
Daniels is not cheap. It's actually, the entry fee is not bad. It's like 400, $450, but by the time you do the Airbnb and the diesel and
Mhm.
all the
Yeah.
different stuff, you order barrel heads and you want to get a barrel head with your logo on it and all the kind of touristy stuff. Next thing you know, man, it's a pretty penny. So I
Yeah.
figured, man, I would make some shirts up and try to sell those and see if instead of asking for donations, it's kind of like give us a donation and we'll give you a shirt.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's a cool shirt too. It's Jack Daniels themed kind of. Are you getting to the Jack? And it's a cool shirt. Like I said, I should be getting mine in a couple of days or whatever. I'll take a picture with it, post it for people to see. But yeah, I mean, man, that's really that's all that we had today, Bill. We appreciate you coming on the podcast, our first ever guest. So we're really glad that it was you. And man, best of luck with the rest of the season. And obviously, we're hoping that you go out there and you win that Jack.
Man, that would be sweet. Uh, I will tell you, like I breezed through your questions,
Yeah.
and just one of the questions that was on there is, man, how long did it take to get your first GC?
Yep.
Mhm.
So I went through just prepping for your show. So I'd started in March of 2019, and I got my first what I consider it was sanctioned IBCA RGC was in August. So March, April, May, June, July, August. So it took me 5 months from my first call to actually get an RGC.
Hmm.
And that was August. And then November's when I ended up getting my first GC. So you got March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, 9 months
Yeah. That's a pretty.
from
I
my
mean,
first cook off to
that's pretty quick. So
Yeah.
I mean, we've so this is our first year competing like full time like this. We did one competition last year, and I guess now we're in. So we, I, my goal is to get one this year. Like I
Right.
really, really, really want one in our first year of competing. I think it's weird because I feel like we're knocking at the door, but I also feel like the door keeps getting further. It doesn't make that kind of doesn't make sense. But I feel like we're there, but then I feel like it's not going to be a walk in the park. Like we're going to have to cook our butts off one day. But I think we can.
But you'll probably be surprised when you do GC. You probably won't like your food, and you'll
Right.
probably go, "Man, this is probably not our best cook. We kind of screwed up on this and screwed up on that." And the next thing you know, you'll end up, and because that's happened. I've had cooks where I thought, like, man, and I just turned in just blah barbecue, just bland. And
Mhm.
uh, I remember at Cedar Park, I won Cedar Park. It was a KCBS here in Texas, and Fred was next to me, and I'm like, man, I don't understand how this works, man. I'm just turning in barbecue that doesn't even, I don't even think it tastes great. And somehow it ends up winning. And sure enough, man, that same cook off I ended up getting, I think it was first chicken, third rib, fourth pork, and eighth brisket and GC, walked every category. It was like 60 something teams there. And, just like, wow, I can't believe that barbecue won, but it did,
Right.
and I'm going to keep going, you know. Because when you taste your own stuff, man, you don't. It doesn't taste anything special. Everybody else's taste is better. So
Right.
Well, man, you recently got the second place chicken in Victoria, and I tasted that chicken, and that chicken did not have sauce on it, and it was banging. It was delicious. I literally went to the chat and I was like, "Dude, Bill's chicken was super badass. Like he's about to win chicken because it was on point, like super on point."
and I
And
didn't like it. I didn't. I mean, I didn't like it. I thought it was a little dry. I was like,
yes, I
it's
just
not my
I
favorite.
took a bite and I was like, "Dude, like that's what I wanted for my thighs because I took you a thigh." And you're like, "Oh man, it's good. I think you should, maybe look here or here, but overall it's good." And then I took a bite of yours. I was like, "Yeah, no, it wasn't good. I gotta go, bro." but but yeah, I mean, again, Bill, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate your time for sure. Uh, I think we may see you this weekend. So until then,
Yep. No, sounds good. Thanks for having me. And man, I wish you guys the best of luck with the podcast and with barbecue, man. I can't wait to see you get your first GC. So
man, hopefully you're there, and some of my other
that would be
barbecue
cool.
friends are. Hopefully my other
Yeah.
barbecue friends are there too. It'll be a good day. I won't show too
Yeah,
much
for
emotion
sure.
though. I'm not good at doing that.
Well, that's what makes it so hard. They're all so good. So if we're competing alongside of them,
Yeah,
that
but
makes it hard.
yeah, but I like going. I like going to the contests.
Oh, for sure.
But I like going to those contests though, man.
Yeah.
It's like I'll text Bill like, "Hey man, where you going this weekend?" "Oh, I'm going here." "All right, let's go there."
Yep.
Because man, if I can't beat you, I mean, I don't know. It's just the way I feel, man.
Yeah. Like, is it really a win?
Yeah, that's just kind of the way I
Well,
look
and
at
the
it.
other thing too, if you go kind of, bottom feeding and you end up going to a cook off that you're kind of bottom feeding, no one's going to be there, and then you get your ass kicked there,
Yeah,
man, then it's double demoralizing. It's demoralizing enough when you lose, right? Or
yeah.
when you go to a cook off and, like this weekend, man, I go and, man, I'm like, oh, KCBS, man, this is going to be great. This is my wheelhouse. And, man, I'm glued to my chair for all four meats, right? Uh, but to go to a cook off where nobody's there and ended up getting your butt kicked, it's double, at least if you go and there's a bunch of good teams, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got beat by people that are good, but man, if you go to a cook off with just a bunch of backyard people and get your ass kicked, man, it really will man, it really make you question your skill set for sure,
uh, I
so
I probably shouldn't be looking at it like this, but this KCBS definitely made me like question myself. I'm like, wait, do I suck at barbecue because I just got 85th pork? But it's okay. Like I said, on to the next
man,
one.
we will all think that. We will all think that. I'll still think that. Like, man, I don't know why these people think I'm all that good. I'm not really that great. I'm just piece shit together and throw it in there, and sometimes it works, but most of the time it don't.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think we all question ourselves at times for sure. So,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but you got to have the hammers, man.
You gotta have the hammers, the
That's
toads.
right.
You gotta have the
You
hammers
got to
and
bring
toads.
them. Hammers and toads, man.
Dude,
You got to bring them. So.
I couldn't tell you how many times, I'm not exaggerating. I'm just standing here at the house and I start cracking up. And my wife's like, "What are you laughing about?" I'm like, "Dude, you have no idea how." And I don't even, I don't even think that you're trying to be funny, but it's hilarious. You're like, "Dude, these hammers, bro, these." And I was just dying.
Look at these things, man.
And then, and then every time I'm at the store, I'm like, "Oh, well, no hammers or toads today, Bill." I'll pull
Man,
out my
I
phone.
hadn't even started. I got to start this week and try to find some for sure. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I said, I'm we'll see where we're going to go. I'm kind of leaning toward, I think, Needville cuz it's closer, but we need to see. We needed to get that 25, man.
I think
Yeah.
hopefully it'll get there. So
Yeah, I think, I mean, like you said, with us, we're right there, and should be able to get it. It's only Monday.
yep, exactly. So
Well, all right, Bill. You have a good rest of your night. Again, thanks for coming on, and we really appreciate you, brother.
perfect, man. Thank you guys.
All right, good night, man.
Good night.
And that's all there is for it with our interview with Chicken Fried BBQ. Man, thank you again to Bill for coming on the channel, being on the podcast, our first ever guest. And I think, I mean,
It's a
I'm
good
obviously biased, but that's one of the better guests that we could get on. I've already lined up another guest. And our next, should I tell him? Should I tell him who the next guest is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So our next guest is going to be Kevin Hernandez with My Pits Are Burning. Right now, Kevin is currently number 1 in CBA. He is the top cook in CBA. He's number 1 in chicken. He's number 1 in pork. And he's number 1 in ribs.
Wow.
And he is a damn good cook.
Yep.
And the thing that we want to do on this podcast is we want to showcase people that maybe you guys don't know about, but they are amazing cooks.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying that you guys don't know about Kevin. That's not what I'm saying. But if you don't, this is going to be a great opportunity to ask him questions, to learn a little bit about him, and to see that there are great cooks out there that they don't YouTube necessarily. They don't Facebook necessarily. They're not on Instagram or Twitter or social media all the time. Kevin Hernandez is one of the best cooks in Texas right now, and he's going to be on the podcast, and we're excited for it. So if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments. We like to take screenshots, and we'll type them up, and we'll ask Kevin. And also, you wanted to talk about the next video coming out?
Yeah, so, and before I do, I think anybody who is interested in learning more in barbecue and competition barbecue to check out Bill's classes.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got some real good information and some great techniques. And speaking of techniques, our next video coming out on Tuesday is a brisket trim video. Specifically, the brisket we used, Danny Dietzen got a 10th place call. So
the exact brisket.
Right.
Yeah, so that exact brisket that we trimmed on this upcoming video is the same exact brisket that we used and we took to Danny Dietz. It's funny because there's a lot of people that are really harsh on me about my brisket trim.
Right.
You know that. Man, let's just say that with one brisket call, we were able to pay for our whole trip because there was a lot of money in that event.
Yep.
We were able to pay for our whole trip with that brisket call. We're going to be able to pay for our entry fee for the next event. That's all I'm saying. I'm not bragging. I'm just telling you guys, this brisket trim that I do, that, by the way, I learned a lot of techniques from Bill. I learned a lot of techniques from Bill Purvis's class that you guys can take. Now, did he do it exactly the same way I do it? No. You guys need to go watch the way Bill does it too, because he's incredible. But you can take stuff from what I do. You can take stuff from what Bill does, and you can just take those different ideas and you can put out your own brisket trim. I feel like we've been putting out some really consistent brisket boxes, some really consistent slices, and they look good in the box. I'm not going to say that that's going to happen every time. We've been very fortunate that we've gotten some really nice briskets at the store, but I stand by it. We've been doing pretty good on brisket, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy that video. Again, anything that we talked about with Bill today, we're going to put in the description. I'm going to put in the description a link to his barbecue class. If you guys are serious about getting into competition barbecue, I think that our YouTube channel is a great resource, but do yourself a favor and invest in the class. because
Right.
you're going to spend $650 and 1/10 place brisket call is going to get you that money back.
Yep.
Let's just say that, okay? So, I mean, it's well worth it to learn how one of the best cooks in America right now does it. And he's consistently, he's consistently doing well all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to do our best out there, but unfortunately, we're not always consistently doing well. Thankfully, we're getting calls, right? People know we're there. People know we're at the competition, but Bill Purvis, just go take his class if you guys are interested in competition barbecue. Look out for the next video, that competition trim, and hopefully you guys are enjoying the competition videos. We're going to try and start putting out a little bit more recipes, and I told you guys this last podcast. Sorry that we haven't been doing as much. We're concentrating on competition right now because every time we get our butts kicked, we want to go back for more.
Yeah.
We got to go. We get our butt kicked one time, we want to go kick butt one time.
Yeah.
Hopefully one of these days it comes back and we can share a GC story with you guys that would make us extremely excited and happy and proud. But we love you guys. Thank you for listening. Did you have anything else?
No, I was just going to say, I think for people who question our brisket trim, go watch our video if you haven't from this past week of the Danny Dietz and how our brisket shape looks when we're doing those slices.
Yeah.
And that all comes from the way that we trim that.
From the way that we trim. Yeah, and I will say this. This is the last thing I'll say so we can end the episode. I messed up a lot. You've seen it. You have seen me mess up briskets. You've seen it happen. It's hard to do. It takes time. Don't get frustrated. Don't let it discourage you. You'll get better. Just keep on going. And that's what I do. Like I said, I'm not perfect by any means, but I'm pretty consistent with the brisket trim these days. And that's all I got to say about it. So thank you guys for tuning into this episode. We really appreciate you guys, and bye-bye.
Thanks for watching or listening.
Or podcasting or driving. My name is Sabrina.